Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Today, I am especially excited because the Goldilocks community member and my dear friend who co-hosts with me another podcast, Women Investing in Women, and who's always here to support our guest, Robin Johnson is our special guest today. And I cannot wait for you to hear what she's up to and how she is bringing centeredness and peace and joy into the world with something wonderful she's about to launch. Robin, welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks.
It is thrilling to be here. It is so fun. I've been a guest before, and I usually just a fly on the wall visitor. And so how thrilling it is that you would invite me to be a guest on your show, talking about a new program that I am launching.
I am super thrilled, Robin. Let's take a moment and talk about what is Kintsugi craft itself and how is that helping from an ancient traditional Japanese perspective and the modern day application of it. How is it helping people think about getting centered and acceptance and finding that place of peace and tapping into that inner joy, regardless of what life throws at us?
Exactly. Well, I have called it's a half-day workshop called Kintsugi Your Life. And Kintsugi is an ancient Japanese art form where they take broken pottery and they put it back together using liquid gold or silver. And they're not trying to hide the scars or hide the breaks, but the breaks and the scars actually become part of the beauty of the pottery. And so it goes beyond just being, oh, I have my pot back again, or I have my bowl back again. It becomes a work of art. And not only is it just a work of art, because it becomes more strengthened and more beautiful. And I actually learned about this art form during my Master of Applied Positive Psychology program, where the program includes the humanities and well-being. And we know that all of the humanities increase our well-being. And so this is one portion of a class that we took. And the whole concept really intrigued me when I was deciding to create this new workshop.
That is so beautiful, Robin. What made you connect the dots between this beautiful art form that is not just visually pleasing, but it truly heals the spirit, right? And gives you permission to embrace all the warts and breaks and cracks and hurt, and embrace that because we are a sum total of everything that we have gone through in life. What helped you make that connection between the art and the workshop you're going to be running for women?
That's an excellent question. And actually, it was May 18th, 2020, and I was graduating from the University of Pennsylvania, a Master of Applied Positive Psychology program. And given that it was COVID, the middle of COVID, May 2020, I was graduating from my living room, completely decked out in my master's degree regalia, had balloons, class of 2020 balloons and banners lining my living room walls. And it was a very joyous, purposefully joyous, celebratory occasion. However, I was holding on to a secret. And the secret was I had not yet started telling my family and close friends that my husband of 34 years was ending our marriage. And after this, the dust settled, so to speak, I found myself saying, I'm damaged goods. I'm damaged goods. Then I stopped and I said, wait a minute. I know lots of women whose marriages have ended, and I don't view them as damaged goods. So why are you viewing yourself as damaged goods? And I decided I'm going to take every inch of what I learned in my program and I'm going to use it on myself. And every time that sort of thought would come, I would use my tools of real-time resilience, character strengths, learning, the science of behavior change. And I'd take those thoughts and I would just wrestle them down to the ground until about 6 months later, at my 60th, it was my 65th birthday, and I was at a women's retreat. We're having a discussion. We're sitting in a big circle, all of us, very engaged and supportive of each other. And I spontaneously said, I am freaking awesome. And if you can't see that, then just get off on the next corner. And how did I go from I'm damaged goods to I'm freaking awesome? It's because I used what I learned in my program. And so over time, I began to realize that other women in my situation, whether they ended the marriage, whether their spouse ended the marriage, or their spouse died. And how am I going to carry on when I don't have my spouse? And I believed that I could take what I had learned and share it with other women. So that's how it all got started.
That is taking something that can be devastating and building something beautiful. And that story itself is emblematic of what the Kintsugi art is about. So I can see why you are using that as the metaphor for helping women heal through these kind of challenges that we all go through. So who are going to be your ideal audience for your workshop, Robin? And what can they expect to get out of it?
Well, my ideal audience, as I have categorized this event, and it's launching next week on Thursday, October 12th, which ironically, perhaps not ironically, but perhaps with a bit of divine intervention on how the days landed on the calendar this year, October 12th would have been my 38th wedding anniversary. And it was random that it happened to be that day, but random according to, I guess, divine intervention. And it is geared toward women whose long-term marriages have ended. I'm letting each person decide what long-term means to them. And ended can be whether they ended it, whether their spouse ended it, whether it ended in divorce, ended in death. And, something that they, either one party didn't necessarily choose. Or maybe they did choose, maybe there was a suicide involved. And what we will get out of it is we are going to be harnessing the neuroscience of hope and using that to create well springs of abundance. We're going to learn the skills of real-time resilience. We're going to unpack and deactivate our negative thinking traps that keep us stuck in unhealthy cycles. We're going to discover and learn how to develop our signature strengths. And we are going to learn how to become architects of our own happiness. We'll also learn a little bit about the science of behavior change. There's different processes involved in how do we actually change our behavior? How do we actually change our thinking? What is the science behind that? So it is a very packed, full half day. On the 12th, it will be over Zoom in the morning from 8 a.m. to noon Pacific time. And then it will be live in Los Angeles, in the city that I live in La Crescenta. La Crescenta has a beautiful facility called the Women's Club. I thought how appropriate to have this workshop for women in the Women's Club, and it's right in the city where I live. And so it's a full half day. of learning all these things that I learned in my program. They're science-backed and evidence-based, as I like to say. So I'm really excited about it.
Beautiful. So you're going to have in-person audience and Zoom audience?
Yes, yes. I decided that I wanted to do it over Zoom so it could reach a broader audience, so anyone across the world could join in. And then I wanted to do it live because a live event is so powerful. I love Zoom. I'm so glad that Zoom allows us to be able to connect from across the world. But I also love that, first of all, I love giving workshops live. I love teaching. And my workshops, whether they're over Zoom or whether they're live, are highly interactive. I'm not just a talking head. We are talking with each other. We're sharing ideas. We're harvesting our collective wisdom. And so that's why I opted to do it both ways.
Beautiful. Take a moment and share with our audience how they can sign up for this and how they can actually go about engaging with you directly, as well as benefit from the workshop.
Wonderful. You can go to my website, robinlearningsystems.com. And at the very top, one of the tabs will be Kintsugi Your Life. And that will go to a very thorough description of what is involved and how to register. And if it is a paid event, and so if there's any issues with money being an issue, then just contact me because there's scholarships available. And you can contact me at Robin, R-O-B-I-N, Robin at robinlearningsystems.com. And we'll work it out. So I want it to be available to anyone and to everyone.
Thank you, Robin. As I'm hearing you talk about how this is geared towards women, I can't help but think about how men also get broken through life events. But unlike women, men don't talk to one another. They don't share it. They internalize it. They keep it in. What advice would you have for men? Because sometimes when men don't even realize they are broken, they can also do harm, right, in their relationships. So what advice would you have for men to, A, notice where their cracks are and how they go about healing it so that they too see the beauty in it instead of pivoting to the negative side, because it's easy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess my first glib response is some man out there will have to develop a workshop for men. But I would say a lot of this is human nature. These skills can be used by everyone. And a lot of it, I believe, comes down to paying attention to how do you talk to yourself. And in the olden, I know I find kind of olden days, but people would think that I feel bad, and then I start thinking poorly. Okay. In reality, it's the other way around. It's our thought. A thought comes first, and then that thought generates an emotion. Mm-hmm. And so we think, well, my thought, I'm damaged goods. Well, how is someone going to feel when they think that they're damaged goods? You feel bad. You feel worse. You go into this negative cycle. And so by first of all paying attention to what am I saying to myself? What thought came before that feeling? A great example is someone who has to, suppose they get an email from their boss saying, I got your report, a lot of things need to be fixed in it. Please have it back to me by tomorrow. Well, they might think, my boss thinks it's terrible. I'm going to get fired. and then I'm going to end up in the gutter on the street. You know, you have all these thoughts instead of just saying, oh, my boss wants some changes. So I can go in and make those changes, or I can go talk to my boss and say, what changes do you need? I'm happy to do that. So once again, by keeping track, by paying attention to how we think, and then through real-time resilience, which is a specific, overt, learnable, buildable skill that anyone can do, whether you're shy and timid or whether you're bold and boisterous, it is a skill that anyone can learn. You learn how to tackle that thought, how to change your thought, how to reframe it, how to use evidence to smash it to the ground, how to use your strengths in getting around it. And then other skills are thinking traps. So basically, you know, they're the same skills. They might just be applied in certainly in different ways, but depending on how we talk to ourselves, how we pay attention to our thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So that's an important reminder, right? Our self-talk is so important. And Mahatma Gandhi talks about how when we change our belief, our thinking changes. When our thinking changes, our talks change. The way we talk then influence the way we act, and our actions change our values, and our values change our destiny. And he truly built an entire movement in India by changing people's belief and thereby changing the destiny of an entire nation. So I love how positive psychology is scientifically coming and reiterating that ancient wisdom, and that you're truly taking that Eastern Kintsugi art and threading it together and bringing that East and West in a really meaningful way. And truly behind the scenes, I'm also seeing how you are creating a sense of belonging for people, regardless of where in the world they come from, because we all come from a tradition, but this is understandable and palatable to all traditions. And you truly are wrapping the various traditions around this. So to me, that itself is beautiful, Robin.
Yes, absolutely. Everything in positive psychology really just takes what has been known for millennia, and that has worked for millennia. And now they're saying, now we have a lot of scientific tools. Let's take what has worked for millennia and find out how does it work? Mm-hmm. Why does it work? And how can we have more people use it more effectively to make their lives better? This was the term positive psychology, and kind of the birth of it came in 1998, where Martin Seligman was the president, the newly elected president of the American Psychological Association. And from the time Freud started and the people around Freud's era coming forward, for the most part, psychology, which is a wonderful field, they only looked at what I call getting rid of weeds. How can we, get rid of depression, which is so important? How can we get rid of anxiety, which is so important? How can we deal with, anger and rage? All of these things is so important to deal with that. But in reality, you're pulling weeds. Well, you could pull every single weed in the field and you're left with a patch of dirt. In order to have a garden, it takes more than just pulling weeds. You have to plant seeds. You have to nurture them. You have to water them. You have to put the right seed in the right soil, etc. So what Martin Seligman said in his inaugural address was psychology, he called it half-baked. We've only been looking at the negative. Now it's time that we look at what makes life worthwhile. How do healthy, emotionally and psychologically healthy people function? What makes them function? Let's study that also and bring that to the forefront. And that is what the science of positive psychology does, to link it with traditional psychology. And you still have to pull your weeds. You still got to pull those weeds, but now we're planting lots of positive seeds so we have a thriving garden.
That is amazing how it came about, and thank you for sharing that for the benefit of all our audience. And as you said, gardening, I am looking at Dr. Nandini Menon. She's an avid gardener. I'm sure as a Kintsugi craft person herself, she is going to have a question or thought to share here.
Yeah, thank you, Robin, for bringing this up. I started Kintsugi in February because I moved and some things broke, and I Googled it, and and I found this art, and I did a couple. But when you were talking about the gardening, I was thinking, yeah, if you just pull the weeds and you leave a bare patch, there's cracks, and even the earth breaks, and it needs to be molded back together again with the seeds. And so just to bring the analogy back to the Kintsugi art form of filling in the cracks with something beautiful. But I wanted to ask also whether you see a correlation. It sounded to me like as if there was a correlation between when you see the cracks in yourself, about emotional self-awareness and emotional management, as well as the art of communicating with ourselves and others, like with, for example, I'm not sure if you're aware of the nonviolent communication movement with Dr. Marshall Rosenberg about, imagination and feelings and knowing just exactly what is being said versus your own imagination and judgment.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that specific work. Other works I am, but I forgot to mention as I was going down my list of what is involved is absolutely we are learning to recognize and handle our emotions with grace, and grace on multiple levels. And for myself, I learned a lot about emotions through therapy, through 12-step programs. I've been in Al-Anon for many, many years. And what I decided at the very beginning is I would not try to tamp down my emotions. I would simply feel them. And so if I just felt this overwhelming grief and sorrow, I wouldn't try to, make it go away. I would just sit down on the couch with a big box of Kleenex, and I just feel it and just cry until this emotion flowed over me and flowed through me. And what I discovered was that these bouts of this just intense grief and this intense sorrow became less frequent, and they became shorter. Also, I realized that beyond just this intense sorrow, I would frequently have what I would call this malaise, like especially in the evening. And I decided to treat it like you would treat a cold. So when you feel a cold, at least myself, when I feel a cold coming on, I don't just say, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to be sick. No, I take my vitamins. I take a bunch of vitamin C. I drink a bunch of liquids. I take more vitamins. I try to get more rest. I proactively go after that cold so that I don't have to just be passive and just get this cold. So in the evenings, when I would kind of feel this malaise coming on, I would turn on Mary Poppins, bed knobs and broomsticks. I would turn on my Vivaldi and my Handel and my Bach, and I would just blast that music, throughout the house until I felt better. And so, that went on for a really long time. And so I distinguish between, am I feeling this intense sorrow that I need to just sit with and feel and let it flow through me, let it flow over me? Or am I just kind of in this malaise where I can be proactive in dealing with it? And so that is how I manage. And I did lots and lots of writing, lots and lots of journaling. And so basically, there are a lot of skills that we have to manage these emotions. We don't have to just be overcome by them, but we can feel them, acknowledge them, and then what's the appropriate way to deal with it.
Right. I liked the way you said the emotion, sitting with the mourning of the emotion and the management of it with the malaise. I don't think I like that analogy, because a lot of times we get stuck with, we feel something, but we recognize that we feel it, but we don't sit with it to appreciate it. And one of the things, that Dr. Kasturi told me early during our friendship was, there is no bad emotion. Both emotions are good, positive and negative. They're both equal. We're the ones that make it positive or negative. And a lot of times, like the way I have been giving myself self-empathy, was always to give myself the empathy the way I would give a friend. But then with this new subject matter that I'm learning, the nonviolent communication, they talk about exactly what you're saying about mourning that emotion, whether it's good or enjoying the emotion, mourning and enjoying the same emotion, the positive and the negative. And then, using your word, the malaise, the feeling or the inaction that comes with it, with the perceived negativity, to use the tools that the same way you would the positive emotion to bring it into the negative emotion. But I think a lot of us forget the truly feeling that and being okay with it. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel happy, but we don't usually dwell on it, and we should do it more. So that so I'm glad you're doing this work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your comments about, nonviolence and peace. And I have been, I've attended multiple sessions on peacemaking and peace building, which is obviously very needed in our society today. And also peace towards ourselves. And like you said, empathy towards yourself. The notion of self-compassion is becoming more and more well known, but having grace with how we're feeling, and having grace with whether we're having a good day, a bad day, and the notion that our feelings, they're data. I feel bad. Okay, what's going on? What happened that I'm feeling this way? How can I deal with it? So the way I put it is, being able to feel our feelings and not get stuck in them.
Beautiful conversation. This is why I love the way we do this podcast with live audience, because it truly becomes real. And I have to give Precious a moment to share her thoughts here. Go ahead, Precious.
Thank you so much. And Robin, this is just amazing. I'm soaking it all in. Do you know much about the research that in regards to not doing what you've asked? For example, not sitting with and accepting your emotions, not having empathy. Does it, in fact, increase those weeds? Is it a part of prolonging the challenges that brought a person to that in the first place? Because that's the opposite of self-empathy. It's like, no, I shouldn't feel this way. And you hurry up and you try to dismiss it. And I'm just wondering if there's research around that, because that's the opposite of helping yourself. And it may even, be proven that it's prolonging this period of trial, let's say.
Yes, there is definitely a lot of research on this. I, at the tip of my tongue, don't have all the stats memorized to be able to share with you, but I know from my own personal experience that if I would just ignore and tamp down emotions, that they would come out in other ways. You would never know this about me, but I used to have just a massive anger problem. I had throughout my life, really until I got into therapy and got into 12-step programs, I had a massive where I learned about feeling, identifying emotions. I had a massive anger problem. I would, just be going along just fine, and then all of a sudden there'd be this volcano. And I relearned that, you know what, if I just, this volcano didn't start right there. It started way back over there. And if I can pay attention to it over there and deal with it appropriately, it doesn't have to be a volcano. And so the other thing is, I would find myself getting really angry over something very tiny. And I'd begin to say, okay, what happened 3 or 4 days ago that I should have been angry about, that I didn't acknowledge? And now this anger is coming out over something really tiny. So there is tons of research, and now you're prompting me to go now look up, okay, what are all the stats? But I can definitely speak from my own life experience.
This has been such a wonderful and healing conversation. And as always, the time runs. So as we bring this to a close, I want to reiterate Robin's message. Robin, any closing thoughts that you have, you can say in a sentence or two for audience to take with them.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a well-being workshop for women whose long-term marriages have ended either through death or divorce. It's Kintsugi Your Life. Put those broken pieces back together and make your life a work of art, of beauty and strength. And you can find out about it at robinlearningsystems.com. Kintsugi Your Life.
Thank you so much, Robin, and so appreciate our loved audience for bringing in your thoughts, your ideas, and making this a truly meaningful and vibrant conversation. And as we bring this to a close, remember, all our broken parts is what makes us us. We are each unique and we're each beautiful. Embrace it. Love yourself. And remember, you need to be able to love yourself to pass it on to others. And embrace that beauty, heal, and find the joy and peace inside of you. And sign up for Robin's workshop. You're going to love it.